doing anxiety. So my name is Devin,
My name is Michael.
I'm Danae.
and I'm going to be talking about what is anxiety. What exactly is it?
I will be talking about the treatments and causes of anxiety.
And I'll be talking about the structures and the recent findings in the brain that deal with anxiety.
Okay, today we're going to be learning about what is anxiety. So fear and anxiety, kind of what separates the two. So fear, you hear, is like an emotional response. And anxiety would be anticipation of future threat. So this one, there's something that happens, and their emotion responds to it. This one, they don't know what's going to happen yet, but they think something will, kind of thing. And then autonomic arousal. So that's kind of like your fight or flight. That's these are more like physiological symptoms or causes here, or what happens physiologically. And then there's muscle tension with anxiety. Like you can see these are kind of different. All of these are kind of like they're interrelated. Like they'll cross sometimes, but but mostly they'll stick to one side or the other. And then you can see kind of like how some of these different. So like thoughts of immediate danger, but these people are vigilant in preparation for future danger. So they think something is dangerous in the future, but they don't know about it. But they're going to be like vigilant to prepare for that just in case. And then right here you can see the difference between here escape behaviors. So something happens, animal will escape if it's scared. Here, cautious or avoidant. They again like maybe there's a future threat they don't know about, but they're cautious and avoid situations that could lead to that particular. Okay, so what are we going to feel when we have anxiety? This will help differentiate again between fear and anxiety and how to, I guess, make sure everyone understands it. So here you can see fear is actually a feeling of anxiety. So you can see how they're kind of interrelated too. But really, you can't have like a feeling of fear is not anxiety because that's like backwards, right? This is right. This is the opposite way. So this is wrong. This is underneath anxiety. So anxiety, fear, not the other way around. It doesn't go fear, anxiety. That's wrong. So then other ones could be worry. So a feeling of anxiety, you can be worried about something. And then despondency, that pretty much means you kind of feel in the slumps kind of thing. You have low spirits is what it's saying. Okay, so these are our physiological stress reactions here from anxiety. So the first one here is tachycardia, so that's rapid heartbeat. Hypertension, so high blood pressure here. Nausea, breathing difficulties, sleep disturbances. High glucocorticoid levels, so here you can see there's steroid hormones produced by the adrenal cortex, and they have anti-inflammatory effects there. So you've probably maybe experienced some of these before, but I mean, to be considered a disorder, you probably have to have like maybe multiple or like really extreme cases here.
There are many causes of anxiety, a few of which I will be talking about right now. The main chemicals in the brain that cause anxiety are serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine and epinephrine. Serotonin um, involves certain receptors such as the 5-HT1A receptor. There was a study done on mice that showed mice without this receptor early in life showed increased levels of anxiety in adulthood. Additionally, mice exposed to stress in life also developed anxiety disorders in adulthood, but the stress exposure had no additional effect on mice who were missing the receptor. Researchers claim that this is evidence suggesting a relationship between receptor levels in youth and susceptibility to anxiety in adulthood. Next, there's the dopamine receptor, which is specific for social anxiety. A 2008 study came to the conclusion of that linkage, and they stated that they found a link between social anxiety with altered dopamine uptake activity in the striatum, which is a part of the brain. Researchers published results that linked anxiety, emotional processing in the amygdala, and dopamine storage capacity. The amount of dopamine in your body produces can be altered as a result of stress, antidepressant medication, use of recreational drugs, inadequate nutrition, and lack of sleep. Dopamine levels elevate in the presence of caffeine, alcohol, or sugar. Prescription medications can be used to regulate dopamine levels depending on any resulting illness. For example, the class of drugs called dopamine agonists are used to treat Parkinson's disease to raise neurotransmitter levels. However, on the other hand, dopamine agonists, which are also prescribed for mental illness, which is what we're talking about now, work by turning down these levels of the chemical. Lastly, there's epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine is common in causing chronic anxiety. This is because adrenaline is released. So if it isn't dealt with and fixed, prolonged exposure to epinephrine can have potentially severe consequences. In treatment of anxiety, there are the most common is the treatment are drugs, like medication, and these are things like antidepressants, serotonin agonists, and benzodiazepines. So, firstly, I will talk about benzodiazepines. These are short-term, fast-acting medication for social anxiety because they have almost immediate effects on the body. They are prescribed as hypnotics because they release chemicals to relax the body. This makes the medication popular treatment for last-minute immediate treatment. However, they should not be relied on for extended periods of time because these medications are highly addictive. Next, there's antidepressants. These are everyday treatments such as SSRIs and SNRIs. SSRIs are recommended by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence for the treatment of GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, that's failed to respond to measures such as education and self-help activities. SSRIs prevent excess serotonin to the brain, prevent excess serotonin being brought to the brain, reducing the excitement of the brain. SNRIs are similar, and there are two major regions in the brain where these neurons, these like noradrenergic neurons, are located. These regions are called locus coeruleus and lateral tegmental. With administration of SNRIs, neural activity in the locus coeruleus region is induced because of an increased concentration of norepinephrine in the synaptic cleft. This results in activation of A2 adrenergic receptors. Norepinephrine is similar to adrenaline, so when it is released, the brain triggers fight or flight response to deal with problems immediately. And lastly, there's serotonin agonists. An example is buspirone, and that is a very similar medication to the benzodiazepines. However, these do not cause muscle relaxation or sedation like benzodiazepines do. Speaking of benzodiazepines have behavioral effects that are thought to be mediated by their agonistic action on GABA receptors. And lastly, each of these medications affect a specific part of the brain.
Ways that are part of the limbic system in the brain that we know for sure play a role in anxiety-based disorders. These structures are known as the amygdala and the hippocampus. The amygdala is the structure in the brain that processes and interprets signals, and that can alert the brain that a threat is present. After that, anxious responses are then triggered. The emotions that are stored in the amygdala also play a role in the fears associated with anxiety. The hippocampus plays its part by turning these experiences and threats into memories, and then it can store them into the long-term memory, which includes past knowledge and experiences. Functional brain imaging shows abnormal activity in prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and the amygdala recorded during performance of various emotional tasks. We also know that there are two hormones, norepinephrine and cortisol, that are secreted for the fight or flight response during stressful situations. Previous research has found that the amygdala is shaped by early life experiences. Experiences such as parenting and social interactions can lead to a person who can't make the circuits in the brain connect, leaving them with anxiety. Individuals who have anxiety vary in their symptoms, but one thing for sure is that the central nucleus of the amygdala is shared among these people. These various experiences are now being used to be able to treat anxiety that happens in the amygdala. While research has been studying the amygdala in the past, researchers are now looking for other places in the brain that contribute to anxiety. They began to be interested in the septo-hippocampal axis. What recent studies have found was that the lateral septum, or the LS, lit up when anxious behavior was present. When they didn't know was whether the LS promoted or limited anxiety. A study done with mice found that when LS neurons were activated, anxiety lasted for at least a half hour, and also after when the neurons weren't even activated. While they saw that there was an increase in anxiety, they also noticed that they were shutting off other neurons in the brain, such as areas in the hypothalamus. What they also noticed was that these hypothalamic neurons were connecting the paraventricular nucleus, or the PVN. This is known to control the release of hormones, such as cortisol. This circuit shows that when the LS has been activated, the PVN releases cortisol, but when restriction of the LS to the hypothalamus, it reduced the rise in cortisol and when exposed to stress. Furthermore, they found out that these neurons actually promoted anxiety and can now further their research for anxiety. Findings also suggest that the basolateral amygdala, or the BLA, which is a role in emotional behavior, has shown activity in the brain. The BLA has acid sensing ion channels called ASIC1A, which responds to pH levels outside the cell. When placed in rats, the blocking of ASIC1A increased behavior of anxiety compared to when rats received ASIC1A. They displayed less anxiety-based behavior. So they found that when activating the ASIC1A, this reduced anxiety-based behavior. So more research is needed for more specific target for getting to the roots of anxiety and how to treat it.